on this episode of Jeff Does Vegas.
What you're doing is making those listeners come back. They like listening to authentic stories. They like listening to the different times we had, what we did, what I discovered, this place I just stopped by, and why I thought it was cool, and why they should visit on their next trip. So what I do, and I do appreciate you saying that, is because sometimes it's a challenge to get it all in, but it's so fun to relive the moment.
Las Vegas.
It's more than just a city.
It's a feeling.
It's that feeling of excitement when you spot the lights of the strip out the airplane window.
It's that feeling of awe as you stroll down the boulevard, taking in the sights and sounds.
And it's that feeling of satisfaction knowing that you're in the greatest city in the world.
Over 42 million people from around the world share that feeling every year.
And I'm one of them.
Taking you to the world-famous Vegas Strip and beyond, my name is Jeff, and this is Jeff Does Vegas. Hey there, and welcome to episode number 130 of Jeff Does Vegas. Just before we get into this episode of the podcast, I want to take a moment to thank my guest from the last episode, Michael Shapiro, frontman for Reckless in Vegas, who just opened up their new residency at the legendary Sahara, Las Vegas. Michael and I chatted about what got him into music, his early days playing in cover bands and touring with other artists, and what inspired him to merge vintage Vegas songs with a contemporary rock sound. If you haven't listened as of yet, jump into the archives at jeffdoesvegas.com or search out episode number 129. My special guest, Michael Shapiro. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, here we go. On to the show. It's always a blast having fellow Vegas content creators on the podcast, and I've been fortunate enough to talk to several, from bloggers to vloggers to YouTubers to podcasters. I love learning about what got them interested in the city and what contributes to their drive to share their passion. And my guest for this episode of the podcast is easily one of the most passionate Vegas podcasters I've ever chatted with. Julian Romero is the host of the Vegas Confessions podcast, which I can honestly say is one of the best Las Vegas podcasts available. Julian has been podcasting about Vegas for almost 5 years now, and over the course of his run, he's shared lots of great info about the city, both on and off the strip, and had the chance to talk to some amazing guests. Julian and I talked about what initially got him into podcasting and what he loves about being a Las Vegas podcaster, some of his favorite spots to hang out in Vegas, how he's managed to turn what started as a passion project into a full-time gig, and so much more. Please enjoy my conversation with Julian Romero of the Vegas Confessions podcast.
When it all started, my main career was longtime profession. About 20 years, I was a chef and running restaurants, and originally born and raised in Fresno, California. Over the years, since the whole COVID thing, everything kind of took a shift. A lot of people know that, as well as the podcast. I do YouTube, I do the social media stuff, and I come out to Vegas quite a bit. My goal during the pandemic was to come out and keep people updated on what was going on. Is it really bad? Is it really empty? Is COVID numbers at a crazy? Is it really crazy? How are the casinos responding to this whole mass situation? And is it empty? And are people traveling here? And just kind of getting a feel for what it was like. Well, during all of that, started to pick up some traction along the way, meeting some folks, as I always do. I'm all about networking and, getting to shake a hand because you never know where it's going to lead to. Well, after doing what I was doing for so many years, it eventually turned this hobby into a full-time job. And I was offered a job here in Vegas to work with a company that's a brand new startup, which is releasing this week. We're essentially an app covering Vegas that's everything to do in town, which is right in the ballpark of what I do already in traveling around town, showing people different casinos, the different deals that they can find around town, best bang for your buck type of situation, and visiting some of the worst rated places, because that's always fun. So that's kind of where it kind of dove into with the YouTube channel. Again, I'm still learning every day. I hang out with all these creators, and again, they're all good friends. So, and it was the same thing with the podcast. And I just kind of, hey, you know what? I want to keep people more in the loop. I want to come out more often. So it eventually led into a job. And now I do. I spend half of my time here in Vegas working with the app. We're actually releasing this week, like I said, and we have basically over 16,000 different things you can do in town, whether you want to shoot a machine gun out of a helicopter, swim with sharks, just stuff you didn't think you can possibly do in Vegas, like drive a monster truck, smash a car with a bulldozer. I mean, you name it, just anything you can do in town. And it's all free, and it's a free app. So they're like, hey, Jay, we'd love you to come in and kind of help us with this stuff. We know you know people around town. We know you know stuff to do. So, I mean, if we can have you come on the team and kind of bring some of the content stuff into the ballpark. So instead of your typical review system, we don't do a thumbs up, stars, none of that Yelp kind of stuff. We're essentially going to be Yelp and Google in your pocket with all the content. If you think of a business, say you wanted to go check out Mon Ami Gabi, and not only do you bring up the business in the app, it brings up a one button Uber button that you can touch it from wherever you're at point in time in Vegas, and it'll set you up to get you there to your destination. There's open maps, turn-by-turn directions. You can book through the app. You can check out the menu, you name it. But if you've never been there, that's where it gets cool. This is where it gets pretty cool is we have what's selected as our featured clips for every business, whether it's a YouTube video or a podcast that was covering the business within the last year. So everything's current. So people have went there and they've showing you their meal and experience or why you should go or some of the specials. All of this stuff pops up for you to see as soon as you open a business. And that goes with restaurants, anything you can do in the city. That's what we're doing. So now what we're doing is releasing the app to where it's free to everybody to basically give people exposure and help find things in town when they're looking to do stuff. These casinos are so big that we've even included some maps for the properties to kind of give you a layout of the land. I mean, you name it, parking tips, deals, there's all kinds of stuff in this free app. It's going to be pretty cool.
I love the idea of linking from the app to a YouTube clip or a podcast clip or whatever. So for example, if I do a trip report episode and I talk about breakfast at Mon Ami Gabi, people will be able to go on the app and they will be able to go to the Mon Ami Gabi page. And on that page, there will be a link to the clip from my podcast. Is that the way it's going to work?
Yeah, 100%. So like the episode you just did of the atomic bomb and stuff, and you talked about the Atomic Testing Museum and stuff here in Vegas, all that whole clip was included and that's linked into the Atomic Museum. If people are interested, it brings up the business and any other podcast or video that's been done on that business that we've collected. So right now we have more podcast and video clips between me and my wife collecting and accumulating all of this stuff, timestamping everything. So when you think of the typical video of a room review, you don't get the, hey, welcome to the channel, subscribe, this is why, this is what I do. You just get the typical start of the room review video. This is what you see, this is what you get type of deal. So it's really nice in the fact that you're just getting to see before you come and you're knowing before you're going, because that's a big one when coming to Vegas for sure.
One of the big questions that I get all the time when I talk to people about Las Vegas is what keeps you going back to the city? Why do you go back so often? And I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just, I just love the city and it's something that has built up over time. For you, was it love at first sight, or did it take a little bit of time for you to build that up and think, hey, like this is a place I want to go back to a lot?
Jeff, it was weird. When I got here for the first time, and you're absolutely right, when people ask you, why do you like Vegas so much? It makes you feel like you are kind of weird, right? But then you get here and you're like, okay, I'm in my comfort zone. This is why I like Vegas. So one thing about it is when me and my wife first came, we were out maybe 4:00 in the morning that trip, right? Late night, we were partying at Coyote Ugly all night. You know, it was a fun night. So we're out on the strip. And Jeff, I could not believe the strip was full of people and traffic and everything was still going. I'm like, this is the city that never sleeps. That's why they say this. And ever since then, Jeff, I was like, you know what? Everything's open. It's an open playground. Let's go explore this son of a gun, right? So then I just started making it a deal to, hey, you know what? Let's start exploring the city and telling people about it. And let's start giving them an idea of what they're going to get into before they go. hence everything happening where it's going now. But that was my thing. Hey, let's go check this restaurant out. Let's go see if this food is really good. Let's go see, let's go check out this hole in the wall mom and pop shop, get to know the business, find out what they like to do on their free time when they're not working, and then give you a new idea of a business to go to, or I end up going, right? So it really does a whole nother level of networking. But this city, and when I tell you word of mouth is big, your reputation is key. And, the people and the handshakes you make in this city, because it's so small, people think it's so big. It's really small, and it's a tight-knit community of people who know everybody within the industry, especially like the casinos and restaurants. And when you know somebody, they know a person, that knows a person, they know a person, and it leads to so many different connections, Jeff, that I'm somebody who I'm baffled that every day, like no matter if we tweet on social media or whatever it is, the casinos always interact, a lot. And I find that stuff pretty cool, because even as, not to say I'm a step above anybody else, but even when people see it, like, just the regular average Joe, they're like, hey, that's cool that, this casino does that, or this guy's out there showing people different places, and the casinos acknowledge that he's doing this. And that's the whole point is, hey, I want to show you guys what these casinos have to offer and the different amenities, whether it's a meal, whether it's the pool, whatever you're into, the new rooms, the new hotel. There's so much to do in this town. It's hard to keep track on it. And that's when I realized, you know what? There's actually people that'll listen to a stupid podcast about Vegas. And holy shit, Jeff, if I didn't see downloads come in like crazy, and over the last few years, since it's just been me and my wife just nonstop coming and like crazy, coming out to Vegas and going to different restaurants and giving reviews on, you name it, shows, anything to do in town, the downloads have been phenomenal. And it's crazy because we'll be at a craps table just throwing dice and, hey, let me get a hard 8, Are you Jay? Yeah, I'm Jay. What's up, man? How you doing? Oh, I listen to your fucking podcast the other day at Ellis Island. These are the great moments that make all of this rewarding when we're sitting there talking into a microphone by ourselves, right? Like, those are the rewarding moments when, there's a guy at the end of the craps table who's about almost 6'5", and he's big old muscular dude, and he's throwing the dice and he cashes out. And, I'm getting ready to place my next pass line bet and get ready to go. And he comes over and he's like, hey, Jay, love the podcast, man. He didn't say a word the whole time for an hour, right? But then afterwards, it's like, hey, Jay, love the podcast. Love what you and Kelly do. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's the reward. And they're like, hey, by the way, we just went to Esther's Kitchen, and you're right, it was freaking great. The fact that these people will take time out of their trip to do any kind of recommendation that my dumbass says means the world to me.
I totally get that and totally understand what you're saying. I know when I first started doing this podcast, it was just a hobby. It was a fun little passion project. And it was just something that I wanted to do because going to Vegas as often as I was, I'd kind of become the de facto Vegas expert amongst my group of friends. And I thought, well, if my friends are asking me questions and want to know about stuff, maybe random strangers on the internet might want to as well. And you know what? If I get like 1,000 people download my podcast, I'm going to be thrilled with that.
Yes.
And 4 years later and 160,000, almost 160,000 downloads, here we are. And I'm like, this just continues to blow my mind every single time I see another 1,000 get added to the list. And I remember the first time I got either a DM on Twitter or an email from someone who said, hey, I listened to your Trip Report episode and you talked about such and such a restaurant and we went and we loved it. And I just want to thank you for that. It's like, wow, that is the coolest thing in the history of ever. A total stranger, as you said, took a recommendation that my dumbass threw out there and just thought like, wow, somebody actually cares about what I'm saying. And that's the kind of thing that really gets me. It's the kind of thing that keeps me going in doing this. I'm assuming it's the same for you guys.
It's 100%. And then Jeff, it goes to a whole nother level. Like I said, it started with the podcast, and then I was like, hey, a few years when I first started coming, I was like under the impression, I'll start vlogging, but I just never did it. I went more with the podcast route. Well, during the pandemic, more or less, I started to pick it back up. I'm like, you know what? people love to listen about Vegas, obviously, because the downloads are great. Let's start showing people. Let's start showing people this food that I'm telling them about. Let's start showing them what these places look like that I'm describing, these clubs like the Phoenix that's painted by a local artist inside and out from every inch of the place, right? And you could only do so much by telling a person, but then you show them and you can start doing these little tricks and stuff in your edits where you start actually producing a decent video and you're like, hey, this is actually really good. I like this. And then you start getting people who actually watch. And then you're here, Jeff, and they're like, hey, Jay, I know you're in town. I want to come and spend some time with you. Are you going to be downtown at all? Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're coming to Vegas for 2 days and you can do anything you want with your time. And you want to hang out with me? Like, dude, I will find your ass. We'll go have a meal. We're going to do something. Like, we're going to have fun. We'll go gamble. We'll go do whatever you want. But you want to hang out? Let's go hang out. And that's what it's been, Jeff. I've been here on this recent trip. I've been here 3 weeks now. Every night I go out. I tell my wife, she's like, so where are you going tonight? Downtown? I'm like, that's my spot. I've been downtown every night. That's my comfort zone. And I meet up with somebody that's a listener, a friend I happen to walk into. There's never plans made. But at the end of the night, we're always hanging out with somebody and we're having a meal by the end of the night, capping it off. That's the biggest reward in doing all of this you can ask for. Again, turning a hobby into a full-time fun thing to do for the rest of our lives, right? Like, and again, we've talked about it. There's people who have a passion for doing stuff they love to do. And then there's people, that just love to do it. And the ones that love to do it will always be the ones that'll make people come back for that next listen or find out what that next report's like, or, hey, what was that next restaurant they went to like that they were talking about and so excited to check out, right? So it does something to a listener where, and again, I got to give a huge kudos to, Shane and Eric, who were a big part of this podcast. When we first started, we, again, got together, wanted to talk about different ideas and stories. And then we brought in Eric, who knew a lot about like the casino inside stuff, which was great. And then, my wife came on and we started going ham at Vegas. We're like, we can do this. We can visit. It's not that far away for us. I mean, we can make this happen. We have the comps. If we keep it smart and we do it right, we can do it free. You know what I mean? We can work the system to where basically all we're paying is for gas to get there and the food and everything's included, depending on where we eat, if we're eating at our hotel and stuff. But yeah, it really does set the people apart who really have a passion for doing stuff that they like to do and people who like to do it. So as somebody who's always loved this, I mean, I never turn down the opportunity to chat about Vegas or meet somebody here or whatever we're doing, a group meetup. I come out to people's weddings that they've invited us to. I mean, it's been a hell of a community. I mean, I've traveled the country, going across the country to drive my daughter's car to college. And, I stopped at friends in Texas's house that I met here in Vegas 10 years ago to stay the night just because they knew I was coming. And lo and behold, they decided, no, you're not going to come to the house, Jay. We're going to get our RV and we're going to go camp out on one of the lakes out here, the biggest lakes. And we're going to take you out on our boat, jet skis, and we're going to have the time of your life for a night while you're here in Texas. That's the reward in doing all of this stuff. Like, I can't express it enough. And again, if you have a passion for creating, and whether it's video, audio, any kind of content, if it's social media, whatever, always thrive, always try to get better. Because I mean, Jeff, I BS you not, brother. There's not a day today where I'm not trying to learn, watch YouTube videos on audio, getting better quality. Why am I finding a hum in my ear, in my feedback? Like, it doesn't matter whether it's audio or video. If I have the moment and time to sit down and watch and potentially learn something new, I take the chance to every day, because I feel like once you feel like you've mastered something, it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, I love this. And again, for any creators out there, follow what you do, stick to what you do. And Jeff, you're a perfect example. You're right there. You're into it 4 years. You're starting to see the benefits of it, and that there is people who listen at the end of the day. And like you said, when they reach out, you can't ask for more as a reward. It makes all of this fun hobby worth it.
I love that you mentioned earlier too about how small of a community Vegas is when it comes to the different industries. I've found that, and regular listeners of the podcast know, and you'll know, I'm big. I say I'm big in the entertainment community. I'm not big in the entertainment community, but
Right.
I have a lot of friends in the entertainment community, and it's been that same thing where you meet one person and they say, "Oh, do you know so and so? They're in such and such a show, or they do this or whatever. You should meet them." And then you meet them and you have them on the podcast. And then the next thing you know, they're saying, "Oh, do you know this person?" And I mean, I think every entertainer that I've had on the podcast, and it's been a lot of them, every entertainer in some way, shape, or form has been linked to each other. They all know each other. And if you ever have an opportunity to attend any kind of event in Vegas that involves the entertainment industry, I can walk into one of those rooms and know 85% of the people in that room. And they all know each other. And I mean, my wife and I have joked a couple of times when we've gone to down to Vegas, and we've gone to particularly Golden Knights game, because of course, as a Canadian, we are legally obligated to like hockey. That's the rule. If you don't like hockey, they take away your citizenship. That's how it works up here. Anyways, we'll go to a Golden Knights game, and we'll be sitting there and we'll kind of look around and we'll say, you know, I bet we know more people in this arena in Las Vegas right now at a Golden Knights game than if we went to a Calgary Flames game in Calgary at home here. We know more people. Yeah. We were trying to get out of a game one night. We were down there with friends and they had driven. And so they wanted to get out to beat the crowd, beat the traffic. My wife and I are getting stopped every 15 feet by people that know us, say, "Hey, Jeff Kim, how's it going? Hey, yeah, blah, blah." And our friends are looking at us going, "What the actual shit is happening here? Like, how do you know all these people?" So it's funny that you mentioned that whole idea of such a Vegas being a small town where everybody knows everyone. It's really kind of hilarious.
It really is. And, you know, what trips me out is the people you run into, and, you know, they know that you do the podcast, but like you talked about, Jeff, is you know everybody there and they all know you. But there's also that side that I always think about is I'm the outsider who comes to Vegas, and they know that, and they're big into that, and they appreciate that. So they're like, go the extra step and to acknowledge you and admire your friendship and keep that close too, because they're like, this dude actually genuinely cares about this place and is always giving the word of mouth to this place. So they embrace you. And that I can't express enough about this city. Doesn't matter whether it's a restaurant, casino, you name it, Jeff. If it's a dance class, I've been invited to get my windows tinted and get radios in my car. I mean, just people who have been offering like, "Jay, if you ever need anything," like, guys, I don't need anything, but freaking thank you, man. That's awesome. I
100% understand what you're saying about being an outsider and being welcomed into this circle of people. I am fortunate enough to be friends with some amazingly talented people. These are people who are singers, dancers, performers, actors, musicians, just people who are a billion times more talented than me, that I have absolutely no business being friends with, but they have welcomed me into this tight little circle. They've been so accepting to the point where they've become some of my closest friends. And they're people who, when bad stuff has happened to me in my life, they are among some of the first people to reach out to me to check on me and make sure that my wife and I are doing okay, and ask if if they can do anything for us. And it's really incredible. At one point I was calling them half jokingly my Vegas family, because I actually saw them more often than I saw my actual family. And so, as I say, I think it's just, it's amazing as an outsider to be welcomed in and to be so accepted among this group of people. It's really heartwarming, actually.
And I want to side note here and backtrack, because you mentioned the entertainment industry. I want to mention a name that I really enjoy every time I come out here and I get to see him. John Shaw.
Oh God. I had John on the podcast. John was one of my favorite guests, because I asked him one question and he talked for 45 straight minutes. And I loved it. It was fantastic. And John was The first time I ever saw John was at a Monday's Dark, and he nearly burned the place down, which was fantastic. They got in a lot of trouble over that. But anyways, John was great. John was fantastic. And anybody that hasn't listened to that, my conversation with John Shaw needs to go back and listen to that episode, because I asked him one question and he talked for 45 minutes. It was the greatest interview ever for that exact reason. And the thing is, he talked for 45 minutes, but he was interesting to listen to.
Yes. And you mentioned, we talked about it, knowing people, right? He's one of those guys. I met him from Lefty, who does the Late Night Magic show, who also knows Bizarro, who also knows, all these other guys, and all, Murray, the magician. They're all friends in this city. And it's so much of a community here that they do. They all work at each other's shows. I mean, John, he's at, Misbehaves. He's all over the place in these different shows. And it shows what a community they do and how well they embrace each other and support each other. Because at the end of the day, this is their craft. And they all get together and do it at different events and venues. So it's cool to not only see magicians, but comedians and actors and everybody get together in this city, and they throw the Shack just had his gala here and had all kinds of different performers. And that's the thing that makes Vegas unique, is you never know what the hell is going to happen the next day.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm learning too. Like, even that, like, I'm a part of this new app, Jeff, it blows my mind on how much stuff I've learned over the last 8 months that I didn't know I can do. And here I am. Oh, I go to Vegas all the time. I know, hey, this is a good restaurant. I've learned so much about Vegas, these hole-in-the-wall places that you have to visit. I visited a place this week called Peg's Glorious Ham and Eggs. No, Peg's Glorified Ham and Eggs. Now, you hear that, you're like, what? Okay, there's plenty of other breakfast options. I walked into this place and had probably the most beautiful waffle breakfast I've ever had. Breakfast was perfect. Service was stellar. Place was immaculate. Clean, spick and span. And this is a place nobody's ever mentioned on a podcast or just, and I'm like, see, these are the benefits of getting out in the town, visiting all of these casinos. And luckily, I'm now able to say, besides, the casinos that were recently demolished, I've been able to visit every property here in Vegas. And that was my goal, is to start off with the casinos and visit them all, get a feel for them, get to see what they're all like and how they're all different. And then now we're starting to venture our way into, the different types of cuisine and shows that Vegas has to offer, which those are all its own task itself. But dude, the entertainment industry, John Shaw, awesome freaking performer. And I can't say enough good things about him. My boss actually of my new company here was the one who took me to that show to see it for the first time and walked me in there. And the first performer I walked into was John Shaw doing what he does. And I was like, oh. And I looked at my boss. I was like, you come here for fun? And he's like, what? And I go, you've been here before? And he's like, yeah. Like, wait, it gets better. I go, better? Like, dude, my mouth hit the floor. Like, I could not believe what I was seeing in these different performers that are doing it. I mean, I'm sitting in front of the stage and they're doing these magic tricks, like pulling birds and cats out of nowhere. And I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? And at the end of the show, they're all out there to meet you and how you doing? How'd you like the show? And that's the benefit of going to some of these small little shows that you're not going to a Cirque or, these big ones where you're not going to have an opportunity to meet, some of these performers. But these shows, they come out because they genuinely want to know your feedback and how you enjoyed yourself. So you get the opportunity too, to not only see the show and be entertained for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it may be, but you get to meet these performers afterwards. And they're such genuine people. Then, like you said, now you have a new friend to start networking with. And now you have 5 more new magician friends that probably have 5 other more magician friends that they want you to be introduced to and check out their show. And again, this city is nonstop, Jeff. And as somebody who's turned that hobby into like full-time staying here, working here, it's even harder to stay on top of things when you're here too, man. It's just as hard because like, you have that mindset of, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to create these videos, and then I'm going to go home and put the videos together and get my content out, right? Well, now it's a little bit different because, like a perfect example, yesterday, I was able to leave the house here, go over, record my videos, walk around, get all kinds of B-roll, roll over to the next casino. So I was bouncing around at the Link, the Promenade, the Flamingo. I went over to Harris, got all these cool shots, left, came back to the house and started editing. I'm like, this is fucking nice for a change, you know? So it does something totally different when you're here versus, you know, all that planning. And I want to execute this stuff and make sure I get it done and not forget to do stuff. That way, when I come back, I have all this content. And I've always had a hard time with, even my wife, she'll vouch for this, because sometimes when we come out, I'm just like, can we just enjoy ourselves? Like, can we just fucking just chill and not have to worry about going nowhere? And let's just sit at the pool all day. Let's drink. And it never happens. We never get drunk like that. Like, one time I think, and I've gotten myself really bad, and I blame Jerry's Nugget for that, because they got like, you know, a really cheap dice table and the drinks come really fast. So yeah, it was a night for disaster. But yeah, so long story short, I was pretty much passing out by the time we were back at the hotel, and wifey wanted to play. So I sat next to her on the slot machine and just happened to start leaning over on her a little bit. So that's my extent of drinking in Vegas. But yeah, you know, out of all the people you see partying and stuff, Jeff, like I tell you, I'm out walking around every night. I'm out working every day in these casinos on the Strip and downtown, the Valley, all the surrounding areas. I'm everywhere in town. Never, ever have I felt unsafe. I know people have brought up the discussion of, is the Strip safe? Is downtown safe? Listen, there's bad apples everywhere you go in life, and it's all about avoiding them. And at the end of the day, shit happens. And you know what? This is a tourist attraction. It's 43 million people that visit here yearly. There's bound to be some shit to go down, right? Like, let's be real. So at the end of the day, there's just so much to do that you have to separate that time sometimes where you're like, hey, I just want to enjoy myself this trip, not have to worry about doing anything, but let's just enjoy ourselves. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, fuck, I really need to be making a video. I really need to be recording a podcast episode. Like, we really need to go try a restaurant, babe. And she's like, I thought you said you wanted to enjoy yourself. I'm like, I know. Then the creator comes out in you. You're like, I can't go home with nothing, right? Like, so you get that drive, and that fire is always there, especially because Vegas is always here for us. I'm always like, hey, what are we going to do that we haven't done? What should we do that, you know, people may find interesting? So my perfect example, my dumbass yesterday, I noticed these brand new pizza vending machine boxes that are inside of the Link from Buddy V. So I'm like, of course, I'm going to make a video on this, because I'm always intrigued seeing people try food in other countries out of vending machines. Lo and behold, they're now here on the Vegas Strip. I'm not a big cake person, so I wasn't into the cake ones that he has. But when I saw pizza, I was like, okay, this may be interesting. So that video I went and recorded, came home yesterday, but it was a different outlook versus getting this stuff recorded so I can go home, yank it out, get it all done and hammered away, and make sure that content gets out, whether it's video or podcast, because that's the other struggle with me is now that I'm doing both versions, I do try to get a podcast episode out every other week and a video every weekend. So that consistency, you know, gets hard when you're out here and you take trips and, you know, you have to put the podcast on pause for a bit because you got stuff going on. And then you get back and you're like, even more hungry. I want to get this episode out. I want to update them about this place that we went to. So yeah, it does something really different. But like I said, man, this is a very, very unique place. And yeah, when I first got here, I was like, holy crap, this place is nonstop. And ever since I've been here, I always find it more intriguing that I always find something new. There's nonstop new stuff, restaurants, bars, clubs, day clubs, nightclubs, casinos. I mean, you name it. There's speakeasies all over this place. And I'm not even a big drinker. I mean, there is so much shit to do for everybody. And that's the other thing I love when meeting people out here and finding out not only, hey, I don't only want to know, hey, where are you guys from? Where are you staying? But what are you guys planned on your trip? What are you guys doing? What's your big thing? So what's the meal look like? What's your high, you know, what are you guys looking forward to do when you come here? Because everybody's comes for a different reason. Whether you're coming for a festival, whether you're coming just to gamble, or if you're just a history junkie, or if you're a club person, Vegas offers it all. Shows, entertainments, like we talked about, some of the best cuisine in the world. I mean, best class chefs are here. I mean, you name it, everything's here. So it's it's everything you want in one spot, and typically it's all open all the time. So it really is overwhelming sometimes. And again, as somebody who comes all the time, still overwhelming.
Something that I've really enjoyed about doing this podcast is it's forced me to step outside my comfort zone, in that I think so many people who travel to the same place on a regular basis, whether that's Vegas or whether it's Mexico or whether it's Disneyland or Disney World, you kind of tend to fall into this rut where you do the same things all the time. You eat at the same places, you stay at the same hotels, you go to the same attractions because you're comfortable. When you're creating content for people to consume, you kind of have to be willing to do different things. Otherwise, it's going to get really, really boring really, really quick. So I've sort of had to do that to a certain degree, and find new things to do. What about you? Same deal?
Yeah. And you talk about comfort zone, and with here, Vegas can test you to a lot. I mean, if you are afraid of roller coasters, they have roller coasters. If you're afraid of heights, you could jump off the Strat, right? If you're afraid of trying different cuisine you've never tried, it's all here. You mentioned Chinatown, kick-ass spots there in Chinatown. I mean, you're talking about Golden Tiki. You're talking some of these cool spots that are there that, I mean, the original Sand Dollar, this whole month of October, the whole place is all decked out, Halloween. I mean, there's so much stuff nonstop. By the way, I got to go there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. There's just nonstop stuff going on in this city. And it's like every month something is happening. I mean, this week, just First Friday was going on. There's festival grounds and having a big old concert, just nonstop, no matter where you go, Jeff. You're going to have fun. And that's my favorite. Like you said, going out of your comfort zone. I love trying new food I've never, tried, especially me coming from the food background industry, being a chef, running restaurants. I've done a lot of breakfast houses, steak houses. So trying a lot of these different Japanese and, different Chinese cuisines and all these different stuff that they have to offer, the Xiaolong Baos and stuff, all this different stuff that I never thought I'd try and love it. I'm like, holy crap, where has this been all my life, right? And it's right down the street from the Strip. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to get to people, Sparrow and Wolf. There's so many great different restaurants that'll knock your freaking socks off that people don't know about, because you get in that vacation mode, and a lot of people go without a vehicle, so it's hard to travel, and I get that one too. But word of mouth is a big one. And if somebody here, hey, there's a kick-ass restaurant called Ping Ping Pong at the Orleans, you got to go check this place out. They might go visit that place, right? Or, just different places like that where they're like, hey, I've never been to this, but I might go check that place out now, because now I have this restaurant I want to check out, and I've never been there, and I want to check out this whole place anyway. Now I have 2 reasons versus 1. Let's get on the Uber and go, And so, I mean, but you're absolutely right. Going out of the comfort zone is so easy to do here in so many different ways. If you're looking for shows that, over the top, maybe a real sexy show. They have, is it Rogue over at the Strat? I mean, just so many different things going on. If you're a comedy person, again, Strat, LA Comedy Room, Tropicana, Laugh Factory. I mean, there's everything. Aces Comedy. There's Delirious downtown at the Grand. There's so much stuff you can do and occupy your time that when people say, oh, they go to Vegas and they didn't have a good time, you need new friends.
Yeah.
That's always my thing, is you need new friends. You need to be listening to some kick-ass podcasts or YouTube channels that are out there, because there's people giving you the word of mouth of places to go to, things to do, new things popping up, different events and festivals going on all the time. There's just so much stuff nonstop. And I mean, you mentioned entertainment, the music. I mean, Aerosmith has residencies. There's Katy Perry. There's everybody. Adele will eventually be back whenever that's settled. But I mean, there's so much stuff nonstop going on in this place that even every night I ask myself, what the hell are you doing tonight?
Yeah.
Because it's your playground, Jay. Where are you going to go? And then you have the eye-opening experiences, like where there is all the fun. There is the realness that, let's talk about the real side of Vegas, that, hey, there is the rough parts of the town that you should avoid. And there are those moments, guys, where, hey, you're going to visit parts of Vegas where it's not safe. Get the hell out of there. Don't be in those don't put yourself in situations where, you're in a rough part of town like Naked City or, in certain parts of Boulder City, or just different areas over late night out on Tropicana over where all the hotels, are not. And these, people of the night are. So you got to know where to go. And I've been getting the question a lot, especially because I'm out here a lot, Jeff, lately, is, hey, JD, are you okay? You good? I'm like, I'm 100% good, guys. I work during the day and play at night. And again, I'm all over the town, everywhere from downtown to the Strip, covering the valley. I mean, you name it, I'm all over it. And I've never felt unsafe here, because this is where I feel that people can genuinely come and have a good time. And yes, there are, there has been incidences where people are robbed and shot, and there's been so many different incidences over the, since the COVID stuff. Things have been getting a little crazy. But even last night, I'll tell you, even walking around last night, there is law enforcement in plain view everywhere you go now. I mean, every sides of the wall over on Fremont Street, all over the Strip, there's law enforcement, and they are out. And I mean, it sucks that it's take these kinds of incidents to happen for this kind of stuff. But I've always felt they should always be out. There's hundreds and thousands of people out there. You need to make sure everybody's safe. So, it sucks that these kind of incidents happen. But at the same time, there is a lot of good here. And this is why a lot of people's vacation destination is Vegas, because at the end of the day, all that fun is here, And again, guys, when I say, hey, there are those bad apples, they're everywhere in life. They're not only in Vegas, they're in your hometown too, from wherever you're listening from. So let's be real, like, there's bad apples there. It's all about avoiding them. And I do it. I see it. I walk around, headphones on all day, and I'm always looking over my shoulders. You know what I mean? I'm always seeing who's around me, because if you don't look right, I'm going to watch you. And if you got a problem with me watching you, let's do something about it, because it's me and you, buddy. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a shit. Like, especially in the streets with the homeless and people like that. Like, I don't play. I don't trust them. I don't stay around them. I don't let them walk behind me. You just never know. And that's one thing, is always rather be safe than sorry. So, I've always felt safe in the casinos everywhere I go in town, whether I'm at a restaurant or hanging out with friends and stuff. I've never felt like I was in danger. But again, the fun is always just seconds to be had. And part of the problem is finding what you want to do, because there's always something to do, whether it's a show or it's just nonstop at this place. And it can be very overwhelming sometimes.
I don't think I've never had a situation where I've felt unsafe in Vegas. I think the least safe I ever felt one time, I remember flying in on a Sunday night, and my flight got in it was later in the evening. So by the time I got to my hotel and got checked in and freshened up and whatever, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk and go find something to eat or whatever. And I walked out the front of Treasure Island, and it was dead on Vegas Boulevard. It was a Sunday night, like 9:30. And it was dead. And I thought, I feel less safe on an empty Las Vegas Boulevard than I do on a totally crowded Saturday night. And I think it was just that whole, it's because there were some shady, because it's like, well, who are the shady characters that are out here right now when it's so quiet? Like, why are they here? Why am I shady? Why am I here? Like, what is happening? But that's really the only time I've ever felt even remotely close to unsafe. And then I did once make the mistake. At the time, it didn't seem like a mistake, because in my brain, it just, whatever, I wasn't really thinking about it. But I made the mistake of walking from the Flamingo over to Tuscany along Flamingo Avenue, which, I mean, is not a bad walk, and it's not really that far, but it's not a walk that you should be doing at night. And I did it at night. And I was walking up there to go meet a couple of friends, and when I told them I walked up there, they just were like, what do you mean you walked up here at this time of the night? It's amazing you even made it alive. And looking back on it now, yeah, it is. It was probably not the smartest thing in the world that I could have done. It's amazing how you get that one block off of Las Vegas Boulevard, and all of the sudden it's like, this is a different world.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. You get on Koval, and it's just one block over from the Strip, but I mean, it's day and night. So being on the Strip to where you're at now, and you'll see a lot of the homeless people hanging out, 7-Eleven, that cornerish area. And and that's a big part of it. Like you said, just keep moving and grooving, baby. Don't worry about them. Don't let them. I mean, I have headphones in a lot of the times, like I say, People ask me all the time. As soon as they start talking, I see the mouth moving. I just start shaking my head no and just keep moving. I'm bothered to stop, and I don't want to hear your story. I don't. I'm always getting hit up by people who's they're a good mechanic. If I ever need him to paint too, by the way, he can do my grass as well. Like everybody out here is a hustler mentality, and one way or another, for some reason, somebody always needs help, and then that's just the reality with a lot of the homeless out here. And you'll notice that, a lot of the times they're just passed out, drunked out because they'll get money and they'll just treat themselves and they're good with their situations. There's still a lot of homeless on the strip. There's a lot of homeless downtown. There's a lot of homeless anywhere you go. And this being a tourist attraction, like that stuff has to be cleaned up. You take a drive down Main Street, head over towards Jerry's Nugget at night, you'll see it. You'll see it like no other. All along the sides of the walls, there's just people just camped out. And it's a reality check sometimes. You go to Naked City and there's spots around the back of the Strip that you don't want to be late at night. And even during the day, taking the drives through these places, I'm like, holy shit, and I'm from a rough area. I'm from Fresno, California. I'm from gangland. I'm from drugland. I know what this shit's like, right? So this was not an eye opener to me. It's not all new. It's not, I'm used to the hustle and I know what the, prostitution's like out in Fresno and I know what I get all that. Okay. So coming to see all this shit firsthand and knowing, hey, this person probably doesn't look like somebody I'm going to be talking to. So I'm going the other way. And if he happens to follow me, then we got a problem. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, avoid it. Because you can see it when it's coming, when you're not in the position where you need to be, just get the hell out of there. Move on. Get back to enjoying your trip. Find the fun places. There's plenty of fun to be had. But yes, there are some rough areas. And if you do find yourself in those areas, get out. There's no reason to be there. There's a reason why tourists are not going there to hang out and spend time on their vacation. So get back to what you was doing. But yeah, there's so much stuff like that people overlook. And that's what I like to tell people on my podcast is, guys, just always watch what's going on. There's always people trying to hustle and scam you out there. All the buskers out there are always going to try and get you in and take a picture and then tell you afterwards. Just know this stuff before going. The more you know, the better you'll be. In Vegas, get an idea of the rooms you're getting into, get an idea of the rental car you're looking at, get an idea of the places you're going to check out. That way you're not just going in blind and you're not disappointed. If you think you like shows and you like Broadway acts, there's plenty of that stuff here at the Smith Center. There's all kind of events that you can do that doesn't have to be gambling related. And that's where I've tried to focus a lot of this stuff on lately. Like, yeah, we're a gambling casino related podcast, but Vegas has so much more to offer. So, I go take, these police drift test drives and go do different shit that a lot of people are not doing while trying to give you informational stuff like, hey, these are the best places to park because they're free and this is why and this is where you need to be and this is where they're located. If you're on the north end of the Strip, you want these places. If you're on the south end, or if you want downtown, there's these options, right? So giving people a general consensus of, hey, there's still free options out there. There's still stuff to do and things to do and systems to utilize to get your way around Vegas for your best bang for your buck.
And speaking of bang for your buck, that's the thing that I've always loved about Las Vegas is you can quite literally make a Vegas trip whatever you want to make it. I'm on a bunch of different Vegas Facebook groups, and one of the big questions people always ask is about budget. How much money should I bring when I go to Vegas? And my response is always the same. Vegas is what you want it to be. If you want to pay $10,000 a night to stay at the Hangover Suite at Caesar's Palace and play $50,000 a hand blackjack and eat at high-end celebrity chef restaurants where the meal is going to cost you $5,000, and you want to go to nightclubs and get VIP bottle service for you and 20 of your friends, you can do that. But at the same time, if you want to stay at the Flamingo for $45 a night and eat food court meals and drink beer at the Stage Door Casino for $3, you can do that too. It's kind of the beauty part about going to Las Vegas. Again, you can make it whatever you want to make it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing is with, just so many different areas on the Strip and downtown. You talk about bang for your buck. You're talking Miracle Mile that has plenty of places like flights and, Ocean One bar or Ocean One, and then you have what's the other one? Flights and Blondie's. I mean, these places, the Salsa Cantina, La Salsa Cantina. I mean, they have cheap breakfast options, $5, $10. I mean, and then Flights, they have these all-you-can-eat packages where you just get to try everything on the menu, and there's three for $10 drinks at most of these places. And guys, I mean, you can get good deals all around town. It's just about getting to the right places. Because again, a lot of strip bars, you're going to pay, $20 drinks. You're going to food court meals. Some of them are going to be, 20. I went to Johnny Rockets the other day. I was like, maybe I'll have lunch. Then I saw the price at $22 for a burger and fries. I'm like, fuck this. I'll drive to McDonald's down the road on the way home. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need it that bad. So, I mean, there's decisions and stuff you can do to actually still enjoy your trip. And you mentioned, I mean, the entertainment, I mean, there's a $9 spasmatic show at the South Point that happens on Fridays. And these guys dress up like nerds with a hat with the spinners on top. One wears the neck brace like his neck's broke. Dude, they play some of the best cover band music, and they are so good. The concert is $9. And by the way, they also have and that's Saturday nights. And by the way, on Friday nights, they have a free show they do in this South Point Lounge. So, I mean, there's so much free opportunities and things to do. I mean, guys, there are so much ways to save money. Yeah, you don't have to splurge. I've seen the different hotel packages and stuff that they are doing for the F1 race that's coming up. And, they're going to get a lot of those people that are going to do that from other countries and overseas. There's not going to be a lot of people who visit Vegas on the regular that are going to jump on that right away. And if they do, it's going to be because they're already a high roller. They already have pool with their casinos, and these casinos already have reserved tickets for these events. So that's how a lot of that stuff's going to go into play. But this is going to be a money grab because it's such a big event and it's a worldwide known event. It's going to be a money grab for people to just come and be here. It's going to be a spectacle. It's obviously going to be televised. It's going to be at night. It's going to be something totally different that Vegas has never seen, with the strips and stuff, areas being shut down. People are going to be viewing from all over. It's going to be a money grab in a sense that obviously all the hotel prices go up, everything around the area, prices go up. All of a sudden you're getting all these surprise fees at restaurants that just pop up. So there's stuff to look out for. And I've been getting people who have been already messaging out like, Jay, what should I do for the F1 race? Like, honestly, you should book your damn rooms now. Like, you shouldn't be messaging me. You should book your rooms. Like, get that now, because what's going to happen, the closer it gets, the rates are just going to fly through the roof, dude. And then the next thing you know, you're not going to have a room available. You're going to be sleeping in your car asking me if I got an extra bed. So book that thing now, because really these moments where events and holidays and big, Super Bowl playoffs and Pro Bowl, prices on everything skyrocket in Vegas. And if you come to Vegas, obviously, this stuff. But guys, if you don't come often enough, I always recommend just check in rooms. I don't care if you're checking for months down the road, just see what they're like, because 9 times out of 10, if you're looking at a certain upcoming month or something, it's going to be a little more expensive. Plus you're adding resort fees on top of what you're paying. And again, people are not accustomed to resort fees either. They're not used to that. They're like, oh, well, I've never had this anywhere else. Well, welcome to Vegas, guys. This is a thing here. It's going to be the inevitable. Everybody's doing it. I mean, you have options like Four Queens downtown that's not doing it. I mean, and then there's other places with like $20, $25 resort fees like Ellis Island and El Cortez. And so it just really depends on where you go, knowing where you're going. It's crazy, but I see F1 as a really, really big money grab because there's going to be so many people in town. Yeah. And the packages and stuff, I can see all of that stuff selling out because Vegas is a place for high rollers. And $10,000 to us may be a shitload, but $10,000 to somebody from Dubai is probably, a drop in the bucket, right? So it really is going to be interesting to see that week of people that are going to be here because they're going to have those pre-races and stuff. It's going to be nuts, dude. It's going to be nuts. People are going to be, I could imagine what the room prices are going to be like for a place like Cosmo that has the frontage rooms on the strip. Like, it's going to be crazy.
So both my wife and I are Formula One fanatics.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We are the ones who will watch the races every weekend. We watch the qualifying practice sessions. I have the Formula One, the F1 TV package online so that I can watch the races commercial free and get all the extra special cameras and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you right now, I will not be at the Vegas Grand Prix. I will watch it from the comfort of my living room because I cannot help but think that this thing is going to be an absolute shit show.
Yeah, 100%.
From the ticket prices, which are likely going to be just absolutely insane, to the room rates, which also are probably just going to be completely absolutely over the top, like nothing Vegas has ever seen before, to the weeks of traffic tie-ups leading up to the event, to Las Vegas Boulevard being shut down from Sands Avenue to Harmon Avenue for 19 hours a day for 4 days over the course of the event, and the traffic tie-ups that's going to cause. It's going to be, again, I'm a Vegas fan, I'm an F1 fan, but I can't help but think that this is just going to be an absolute nightmare.
See, and I agree with you, but I want to say, like, I agree with the sense that it's going to sell out 100%. Like,
Absolutely.
That's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, in the drop of a dime, that's going to do that. I think that's the reason. My buddy got like the biggest kick out of me last night because he was telling me we were at Circa hanging out with Derek Stevens and stuff at the Mega Bar. And he's like, Jay, how many Vegas Knights game you been to? I was like, none. He's like, what? I go, no, I've never been. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, okay, well, what about Raiders games? I'm all, none. He goes, why? I go, listen, you know how much better it is to watch the game on TV versus being at the game? Like, I'm not one who's in the big on drinking anyway, so I'm not already there for that reason. You don't get to hear what the hell's going on when you're at the game. You don't really know what's happening unless, you know, you're actually having a good seat. And honestly, I wasn't in no big rush to go see the first season and spend, you know, whatever, $500 of tickets, whatever it was, to get a ticket and fight through all that mess. Dude, there's plenty of other options for me to do. I could watch it on TV from one of the sports bar that's right down the road, right? And he's like, dude, I'll go to Raiders games. I'm going to VGK games, but I'm just kind of letting the dust settle because even the VGK games, like I've been out at Park MGM when all the festivities start and the marching bands come. I mean, it's really unique. And I mean, the pregame festivities of the whole arena and the way they do stuff. I mean, it's something to be seen, but I was in no rush to go straight to the Raiders game and go through all that. I mean, I've been to plenty of NFL games. I'm a huge Bears fan. So anytime they came to California, I was going to them. And to me, I was like, yeah, it's great to go see my team play, but it's honestly a lot better on fucking TV. Like, I mean, You save the money, you get to actually cook from home, watch it from your house. I mean, it's great. It's so much better. Like, the Raiders are always going to be the Raiders. Like, they'll be there. I'll get there at some point. I'm just in no rush. And yeah, with the whole F1 thing, the last thing I'm going to do is be out on the Las Vegas Strip and crowds of people. And hell no, I watch that from some sports bar here in town, probably at Circle. We'll watch it. So yeah, it's absolutely right in the sense that because it's a big event, everybody and their mothers want to come and see it and be here for the first one. And if it does go super well, which we're already anticipating, Jeff, this is going to be a thing that just is every year. Yeah. And it's going to just get bigger and bigger and like EDC, right? Like it just keeps growing and growing. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like how big these events and these festivals and even residencies can bring people in nonstop. It's pretty freaking unique.
After the break, Julian shares one of the toughest parts of being a Vegas podcaster and creating content, and we hypothesize on what's been leading to a decrease in deals in Las Vegas as of late. That's next on Jeff Does Vegas. Something that I've really noticed, and I think sports has been a big catalyst to this, and I've noticed it more so since the Vegas Golden Knights have come in, but obviously with Raiders football coming and big events like Formula One, and now basically every UFC event is hosted there, and there's March Madness, and there's all these, Super Bowl is a huge deal, obviously. All these things are coming up. It's getting more expensive. Vegas is getting more expensive in general, but particularly with hotel rooms, it's getting harder and harder for somebody like me, who was traditionally a Sunday to Wednesday or Monday to Thursday guy who would spend $35 a night to stay somewhere like Bally's. It's getting harder and harder to find those deals because there's just so much going on in the city. And traditionally, it's always been a case of, well, when there's big events, rates go up. Now it's just like there's so many big events all the time that the rates are just always up.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to find the deals. But I mean, that's not to say if you're not looking, you can't find them, because they are out there. There are days where, there's nothing going on here. And as shocking as it sounds to say, that means there's no real big festival or event going on. I mean, every weekend, last weekend was Oktoberfest, the weekend before that, I mean, they had the Mexican Independence Day. I mean, it was just it's nonstop, back to back to back. And that's what's cool. And that's what helps me even keep track of what's going on or stay in the loop I don't mean to keep pushing it, is this Vegas Near Me app, is because we have everything listed. I'm like, holy crap, they have an Oktoberfest. I didn't even know that they just had it out 2 days in a row, or they have this Renaissance fair going on this weekend that's right down the street. And I'm like, man, there's so much cool stuff that's going on that everyday people would go and check out. Plain example, the Palms on Mondays. The Palms has $5 movies at their Brendan theaters. And if you've never been to their Brendan theaters, I was just there this past Monday, dude. And this place is a theater, totally Vegas style. Everything's decked out. The numbering on the rooms when you walk in are disco balls that are rotating, and the numbers are on, and the whole place are decked out in graffiti by graffiti artists. I mean, this place is freaking cool. And you do not think I'm at a movie theater right now. And it's $5. So last weekend I went and watched 2 movies for the price of one, spent my night there at Palms, and just kind of, watch one movie in between, went, hit on a slot machine, won $300, went back, watched the next movie. So it was a win-win, and it was really nice. But again, $5 movies, there's always something like that to do. There's so much cheap events that you don't have to do everything expensive. There are deals, there are meal deals, there are places to go check out. Like we mentioned, some small shows that are, not going to be $130 or $150 ticket, or sometimes absence up there at $300 sometimes. You can check out a crazy show that's downtown that nobody knows about, like a Particle Inc. for $40, and leave the place like, what the hell did I just watch right now? Right.
Uh-huh.
So there's different things like that throughout this town that I feel like nobody knows about. And there's all these little businesses, Jeff, that are just mom and pop places that do stellar food, or do something like desserts that you've never tried and you never thought you'd try because it just, you never had a chance to. And lo and behold, it's right here at this little stand that just happens to be in this outlet mall, right? And you're like, what the hell? And then the next time you see them, they have their own brick and mortar and they're now doing their own business. You're like, no freaking way. So, people like the Dirt Dog here in Vegas, I know them very well. And I've known them when they first started, and the manager, me and him have become really close friends. And I've done a few videos with them at their downtown property. They opened one at the Showcase Mall. They just opened another one on Sahara. These people message me every time they open a place, Jeff, to say, hey, Jay, we're opening another one. Love for you to come out and check this place out. Jeff, I'm nobody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I am absolutely nobody. But the fact that they want me to come out or try this new Snoop Dogg hot dog, or this exhibit special that they're doing now, Jay, come try it out. Let your people check it out. I'm so honored because, I mean, it really is the reward of doing all this. But the funnest part is fighting with these fuckers because they never want to let me pay for my food or anything, right? So I'll find my way and I'll tip every employee in the building. Like I'll get my way around doing it. But there's a lot of these businesses, bro, where they're like, hey, we love what you do. We love how you give the word of mouth. Like, we'd love to show you some stuff we're doing. You got time to come down? Like, yeah, I'll come down. Like, really? Yeah, I'd love to come down. I've never been. I want to check it out authentically. Like, I'd love to tell people about it. And then they blow your socks off and give you some stuff you didn't think you were going to get into. And you're like, holy crap. And then, like I said, every time I go somewhere, I always argue with businesses. Yep. I'm like, guys, come on, let me pay. No, Jay, you're already doing enough. You're telling people about our place. Like, please, you're going to go back and talk about it on your show. We already know how you are and how you carry yourself. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I get paid to come here. Nobody wants to let me pay for my food. I've made connections every new place that I go to. I got a new friend in contact every time I walk out of that door. And 9 times out of 10, they have another friend that they want me to go check out. And this happens every time I go to a place. So that lets me know, and my wife says it all the time. She's like, babe, you're just super personable. You're super easy to get along with. Your personality is super, I mean, you're not like your typical person. You know how to open a person up, and you're very good about talking to people, and you carry yourself well. I said, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm all about trying to get a person's story out of them. I want to find out where you came from. I want to find out what you're about, what you like to do, and what you like to do on your free time. Because if you mention a place that I've never been to, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to go check out this place. And especially if you tell me there's something really unique or something really cool about it, or they just happen to serve what you would consider some of the best pizza in Vegas, I'll be there tomorrow, right? Like, that's just the fun in the game of checking some of these places out, because when they see you walk in, especially me right now, you can see my hat, Jeff, but the listeners can't. On my hat, there's a big YouTube thing on the side, right? So it's no secret that when I walk into places, they're like, oh, and then they realize, fuck, that's the guy who's always talking about this place, or that's the guy that was just here last month. He put a video out. There's some places I go back to and I'm weary about, right? Like if I did a dispensary video and tell people, hey, these are the different dispensaries you should visit and why. This one has no taxes. This is the one you should check out. After I did the video and I put the video up, I was a little nervous the next time I went to the dispensary because I didn't know if they were going to say something or be pissed off about it. Dude, I walked in and the manager of the place like, dude, love the video. By the way, I got some stuff I'd love for you to try, and it's on the house. And I'm like, no, I didn't come here for that, dude. You know, I come here already. I said this was my favorite place for a reason. There's no taxes. Like, that's why I come here. I buy, I I'll only buy here, dude. Like, what? I don't need shit from you. I'm here to buy my stuff. He's like, no. You're trying these new things out. And I'm like, dude, I'm nobody, Jeff. And that's the graciousness that these businesses give you when you come in and you authentically want to tell people about their business. That literally, dude, I can't tell you enough on how freaking cool it is that this city's like this. And it happens with every place. I was just at Randy's Donuts yesterday and I walked in. All I did was walk in, Jeff, and I was just checking it out. I hadn't even said a word to a person. I'm looking around, checking out the donuts, looking at that, the whole atmosphere of the place. And the lady asked me, she's like, can I help you? I said, can I get a coffee? Sure. She gets me a coffee. Any donuts? Like, not yet. I think I'm gonna lay out my video. I'm kind of checking it out first. I'm gonna do a video on the place. And I was like, because I think it's super unique. Not only are you one of the newest spots and you're an LA-based chain, you made your way into Vegas, but you guys just added a drive-through. You're 24 fucking hours. Like, this is really cool, super unique. Not many places like this, right? So I thought I'd come down and check it out. I go to pay for my coffee. Have a nice day, sir. Like, come on, guys. I'm not here for that shit. Like, so I throw $5 in the bucket. I'm like, guys, I'm not here for it. And the guy after me is like, she said, have a nice day, bro. Like, how much she got to tell you, right? Like, so, and we start laughing. Like, that's awesome. And that's what I go, you saw what happened, right? And he's laughing. He's like, she said, have a nice day. You're going to argue about free coffee? Like, yeah. So everywhere you go, Jeff, I mean, if you carry yourself well, you present yourself well, you're genuinely interested in what people are doing and you want to relate that information, these businesses open up to you like no tomorrow. The fact that I text with business owners here in Vegas blows my fucking mind, Jeff. I don't live here. Yeah. Like, it's crazy, and I love it because I'm always finding something to do. I don't know where I'm going for lunch today, but I guarantee it's going to be good.
I find it so funny that you mention having to fight with people to pay for stuff. I've run into this a few times, not with restaurants, but with shows. Because my wife and I, we love going to shows, and we have a lot of friends that are involved in these shows, and we want to support them. We want to help them be successful and make money at their endeavors. So we are totally willing to pay for show tickets, but inevitably they end up giving us tickets for free. And so then we need to try and find other ways to support them. And we ran into this last year with Jen Kramer, the magician at the Westgate. We went and saw Jen at the Westgate. We were her guests. We were very happy to be her guests. It was not expected. I had reached out prior to us going and just said, hey, I'd love to meet you after the show and have a chat, because I had her on the podcast for a conversation, and she was just an absolute sweetheart. And I really wanted to meet her in person and thank her. So after the show, my wife and I are standing out front. She's got her merch table set up, and her assistant is there selling merch. And we bought our nieces and nephews these Jen Kramer snap bracelets that had a little USB drive in them that had videos of magic tricks. So we thought, it'd be kind of fun for the kids to learn how to do some magic tricks. That great stuff. So we're chatting with Jen. She's going to give us these things. And we said, no, we already bought them. And she said, what do you mean you bought them? Here, let me give you your money back. And we had to fight with her to not give us our money back, because we were like, no, we want to support you. We want to help you. We want to support you and help you be successful at this. And so anyways, it really cracks me up.
You mentioned the show with Jen. The same happened with my wife a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to bring her out for her birthday and just do a bunch of shit we've never done. And that's where we was like, you know what? We really don't do shows. Let's add in a couple shows. And so I did a lot of the planning. That she didn't know what was going on, but I had everything laid out day by day. Now, when it came to the shows, I had a friend I met a few months back. He's one of the head lead singers, and it's going back to, guys, word of mouth, this whole city being networking, people knowing each other, right? So this band is called Original Chaos. They're a band here. They perform on Fremont. They perform over at Level Up at MGM. They're all over the place. I even believe they're at Westgate every now and then. So they're all over, and they're a really good band. And they were recently named the best cover band in Las Vegas for 2022. So, I mean, they got some kind of consistency there and a lot of pride in what they do, and very good guys. But they were always, messaging on Twitter, hey, if you're ever in town, we're out here live 10 o'clock. We'll be performing out here. And I'm not a big rock person. Okay. I'm going to backtrack there. First, I didn't realize, Jeff, how much I enjoy live music until I started coming and working Vegas so much. I am out on Fremont Street watching Spandex Nation, Alter Ego, 80 State. I mean, you name it. I am watching these bands every night, and it's all different music. Doesn't have to be rock. It's old school. It's country. I mean, the Tony Marquez band is killer. There's so many different bands, even throughout the town, not just Fremont Street, that pop up. And I'm like, holy crap. There's some really, really good performers that don't have to be a Beyonce or Usher or Bruno Mars. You don't always have to go and see that caliber. You can get that in some of these everyday shows. So, I mean, dude, what you're saying is 100% cool and right, because when you know people, these lead singers of the band, turns out one of them, after I met him and, we were taunting each other so much on Twitter, like, yeah, dude, I'm going to come out. I'm going to find you guys. I kept telling, I'm going to find you guys. I'm just going to show up one night. So I did. I showed up one night. They were at Level Up. And I was just happened to be passing through MGM. But about an hour earlier, I saw they were performing that night there. So I was like, you know what? I have nothing to do. I'm going to go sit down and watch some live music. Jeff, I cannot tell you how good this band was, right? And I'm like, fuck, they're playing everything. They were playing Stacy's Mom, all the small things, like all the old school songs you listened to in high school, right? And I'm like, these fuckers are good. And then they started going by years and covering different decades. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Met them afterwards. The bassist is also one of the performers in the show Atomic Saloon. So I was like, oh my God. I was like, really? My boss loves the show. I haven't been. I said, but I plan to take my wife in a couple of months when I come back on her birthday as a surprise. He's all, really? He's all, and you've never been? I was like, no, dude, never been. And his buddy, he already knew who I am. He's like, dude, there's a podcast here in Vegas, YouTube. He likes to make videos and stuff. And I go, I'd love to have you guys come on and talk about not only Atomic Saloon, but the actual band and where you guys perform and give people, more heads up on what you guys do. The dude's like, no, time out. When you and your wife come, I want you guys to come to our show. And I'll cover your tickets. Your name's already at will call. I just sent it to my guy right now. It's like, no, stop that. I was like, I haven't even met you for 10 seconds, dude. Like, slow it down. Like, take me to dinner first. Like, hold on here. And so he was like, dude, no, I want you to come check it out. Jeff, I had to argue with them for 2 months before getting there. I'm like, dude, I don't want you to give me these comps. Let me at least pay half. So they let me pay half of my ticket's value, which I thought was so cool. I said the same thing. I want to support, guys. I want to give you guys something. I said, obviously, you can't just throw $100 at a crew of people. Like, I want to be able to still pay something. So they did. They let me pay half of the ticket price instead of comping the whole thing with, I thought, thank you. Because again, they see that, hey, we want to be supportive. We're not there for anything free, but we realize, hey, at the end of all this, we're going to get an experience that we're going to be able to tell people about. And that's why we show up. And they, knowing that, restaurant, entertainer, you name it, you walk in the doors and they're like, oh, this is cool. That guy who loves talking about my place is here. He's ready to tell people, or let's see what we're going to do today. And they are that much more excited to have you in. As we talked about earlier, the outsider, they're happy to welcome you in and show you what they have going on. So, dude, Vegas does some really cool things that I didn't know were possible. And again, the connections and the networking, it comes back full circle to what we talked about earlier. Is just, it's got its own community and its way of, networking with each other, that it's pretty cool. The word of mouth and the networking, the friendships you can make in this place can lead to a lot.
I do want to talk to you about your podcast, Vegas Confessions podcast. You do an amazing job. You score some really, really great guests and have some great interviews and great conversations. And something that I love about what you guys do is, you don't focus on one thing. You're not just a gambling podcast. You're not just a reviews podcast. You really do cover a lot, pretty much anything and everything to do with Vegas.
And it's hard because you want to not leave stuff out, right, Jeff? You want to make it as authentic for a person when they're listening. You're like, God, I want to make it as detailed as possible so they can get the best idea and description of a place before going there. And that's hard to do sometimes with the audio version. But when I started realizing, hey, find the unique things, the stuff to mention, the things that stuck out to you, and roll with that. Move on to the next place, whether it's not on the same topic, but just kind of show them, hey, you're not only doing gambling, you're not only doing the same restaurants, you're not only doing a show, you're going to do something new. You're going to come back with something new to talk about. You're going to experience and dive into, like we talked about, something uncomfortable. Like I do, Jeff, I have the goal of jumping off the top of the Strat, but I don't plan on doing the goal anytime soon. So, I mean, there's stuff like that where I do have ideas and stuff in place, but some stuff I'm more eager to do than others. But I mean, there's so much stuff that there's so much genuine meetups with people. There's so much genuine groups. There's so much genuine people that come out. And then, like you said, there's also the locals that like to get with you and hey, Jay, let's go check out this place over here. It's called Steiner's. It's off of Buffalo, and they're open 24 hours. And they got a burger that's $20, and it's got some Kobe beef in it. I'm like, what? For $20? Let's fucking go. So we'll go there at 3:00 in the morning. And then the next thing you know, the next day we're there because they do a $7.77 breakfast that you have to check out because it's pancakes and it's a whole plate of food, and it's well worth the money, and it's really good at 3:00 in the morning. So there's just really good spots that these people like to take you to. And they're like, Jay, I love that. And they know that about me, that I like to go off and adventure and do different shit, that they're like, hey, Jay, I want to take you to Little Mexico. Oh, what? Little Mexico, Jay, you can get yourself a sombrero on one corner, a chicken, you can get your car painted on the other, and then you can pick up a sofa if you need it on the way out. Like, that's the kind of shit I love. all you got to do is look. And the city has it all, but people don't realize, hey guys, there's so much stuff to do. And that's where it becomes a real challenge, Jeff, is you want to squeeze it all in. And at the rate that I do stuff in the places that I go, a lot of the times I overlook or even don't even think about stuff that may be interesting to somebody that I do that I don't even think, hey, they might want to listen about, right? So, I mean, there's stuff that I do that people are like, why didn't you talk about that place when you went to the place? Like, what place? They're like, oh, you mentioned this Roma Deli place, but you just kind of talked about how good their Italian food was. Like, really? I didn't even realize. Well, guess what? Now we're going back and we're going to get the full detail of this whole menu, the whole layout of the land, how it started, when it started. Let's get the owner on and let's talk about why he got involved. By the way, guys, he's a professional poker player and so is his dad. You want to get interesting? And so that's the kind of stuff I'm always looking at, like, hey, let's take this shit to the next level. I don't want to be the best podcaster, the biggest YouTuber, the biggest anything. I don't want to be anything. I just want to have fun with what I'm doing, do it at a different manner that nobody else is trying to do it, and keep it my own way. My biggest thing when coming in was trying to find my way, right? Everybody has a podcast. Everybody does their show a certain way. You have to be different. You have to find your own way, what makes you unique and stand out. That makes the listener want to come back to your episode versus another episode, right? So that's always my mindset is it's not competition. It's how you're going to stand out, Jay. What are you going to do differently that other people are not doing? And for me, it was, I reached out in the beginning when I first started podcasting. Hey guys, would any of you guys be offended if I started a podcast and I started telling people about the way, I do Vegas and my stories and the places I think they should visit? They're like, Jay, why are you messaging me? Do you need like equipment? Do you need help? Or what the hell are you messaging me for? What do you want? Like, no, I wouldn't care. Please do a podcast. I would love that. And everybody was like that, Jeff. And I'm like, all right, this is really cool. Everybody thinks I'm full of shit just for even asking if they would be offended for me starting a podcast because they were all the podcasters, right? So I was like, nah, I'm all right. I'm just going to do it. I stuck with it as of 7 years ago, Jeff, and I haven't stopped. And it's been one of the funnest hobbies and journeys I've ever done. And you talk about the network and relationships and the stuff it's led to. I mean, it does something with the podcast. The podcast is what surprises me because you think, oh, well, YouTube, more people see you on YouTube and people get more of a visual. Jeff, I get 10 times more downloads on the podcast than I could on the YouTube channel any day of the month. And it's always baffling to me because I'm always like, hey guys, I got a YouTube channel. Hey guys, I got a YouTube channel, right? And so, but they like the podcast. And that lets me know, hey Jay, don't change shit up. Do what you're doing already, because what you're doing is making those listeners come back. They like listening to authentic stories. They like listening to the different times we had, what we did, what I discovered, this place I just stopped by and why I thought it was cool. And why they should visit on their next trip. So what I do, and I do appreciate you saying that, is because sometimes it's a challenge to get it all in, but it's so fun to relive the moments. And that's why I love doing the podcast, because you get to talk about all the good and sometimes the bad. And those stories, people can relate to that, whether it's good or bad. And they're interested because they may be either going or they may be either just getting back and had a trip or a certain situation that was similar that I can relate to. And just by the way you talk and your delivery and the way you describe things and your storytelling, you can create a listener for the rest of your life. And that's what I've been able to do when, just thinking I'm just talking into a microphone. Like nobody wants to listen to me talking to a microphone. And then we were like, well, people are actually listening. So then me and my wife are like, well, we know of all these other podcasts that are doing it informatively and in different ways, more like news segments and stuff. Let's go out there and have fun and not only bring back the information, but try stuff that other people are not doing, because that's going to also do something. And that goes for creators that are listening to this. If you're into YouTube or if you're into podcasting or anything, any kind of dynamic or any kind of criteria you're into getting into, find what sets you apart. You're always going to want to be a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. Don't be following the crowd. Stand out from the crowd, because otherwise, guess what? You're just going to fit in and you're going to blend in. You don't want to blend in, because if you blend in, you're never going to go anywhere. It's just always going to be a hobby. And I'm a prime and perfect example who's turned my love and passion of what I do into my full-time career. I mean, brother, I can sit here and podcast and record any time of the day I want to, get paid for it, work at any time in the hour I want to, adjust my own hours, go out and work when I want, come back, play when I want. It's something surreal that's turned into real life that I'm super fortunate, blessed, and believe me, I'm not fucking this one up, right? Like, that's one thing I have to do is make sure this is successful. We keep doing what we're doing. We're networking with everybody in town, especially my friends when they come in like yourself, like everybody, when there's a chance to hang out with them, I have to do it because that's my way of paying back respect for them listening and watching, right? Like, I want to go hang out with them if they take the time to watch and say, hey, I find you entertaining, that I want to spend some time with you. Like, fuck, what are we doing? Where are we going? What are we doing? Let's do it. So, and the fact that you do that, and this is probably one of the last good stories I mentioned, is yesterday I was at the link recording a video, and a guy walks up to me and he's like, hey, Jay, and now mind you, I always had the AirPods in. So like I watch people, and when I saw him, his mouth was already moving. He was looking at me. So I knew he was talking to me, right? And his hands were moving. And I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? He's like, hey, Jay, I can't believe I just fucking ran into you, dude. My name's Brock, and I've been following you guys for a long time. I go, you're Brock Bedingfield. He's like, wait, how do you know that? I go, dude, you've been interacting with me on social media for years. You don't think I'm aware of who you are? I saw you were coming out to Vegas a few days ago, and I knew there was a good chance I'd probably run into you because I was working on the strip all week. And he's like, you remembered my name? He goes, that's so fucking weird. I go, listen to this. You know my name. You remember who I am. It's just as weird, right? And he's like, yeah, I guess you got a point. I'm like, that's the coolness in all of this, brother. We all got a love and affection for Vegas, that when we're here in town, it doesn't matter who you are. It really doesn't matter who you are. If I can do it, anybody can do it. If you have the love and the passion for what you do, let it shine. Let it show. Stick to it. Stick to your guns and continue with what you do. And guess what? It's going to land somewhere. Something's going to stick. If you keep throwing stuff at the wall, at some point it's going to stick. And that's just the way it is in this, and any career. You got to stick to what you do, stick to your guns, and make sure you have that passion for it every day. And it's pretty hard not to find a place intriguing. Like this, it's pretty hard not to fall in love with a place like this that's just nonstop, where people are here coming to have fun. So literally, when I'm out walking around every night, I can't tell you, Jeff, how many times I laugh at just people 60, 70 years old enjoying themselves, dancing full blast, having a good time, not caring who's watching. That's what I love about Vegas. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, green, or blue, big or small. You're here to have fun. And when people are having fun, that's my favorite thing to walk by and just see people laughing and just having a good time, because that right there is why people come here. And that right there is the reason why I'm here, because, I was doing that, but I was able to do it to a different level and find different ways to make sure I utilized it to eventually turn this into a full-time thing. And I had these talk with friends years ago, like, hey, how do I turn this whole YouTube podcast, social media stuff into, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, right? And a lot of my friends, especially the big creators here in town, they're like, Jay, just keep doing what you're doing.
If people want to track you down on social media and, of course, listen to the podcast, lots of different ways to do that. How can they go about it?
Oh, yeah. The social media, on Twitter, we're Vegas Confessions Pod. On Twitter, it's the Vegas Confessions Podcast. You look us up. I also have another one, Julian Romero 559. That's the real one. I just retweet all the Vegas Confessions stuff. There's Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're the podcast you can listen to on any podcasting platform, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all that good stuff. You name it. We're on Podbean. We're everywhere. Again, if you're in a good Vegas content, just a little different delivery, and the way that we bring it is a little raw and real for you. But again, like Jeff said, we like to cover it all. We like to hit places nonstop. And again, a big kudos to you before I leave, Jeff. We talked about the atomic bomb episode. The other one I have to mention is my wife. So we are gathering all this content for this Vegas stuff with the new job. And so I'm doing all the YouTube stuff. My wife listens to all the Vegas related podcasts. And right now she's at somewhere of about 45, 50 active, right? So she's got all these different podcasts on her list. But one day she came to me and she's like, oh, babe, check this out. I'm like, what? She's I want you to listen to this. I don't know if you caught this. And I hadn't listened to the episode yet, but I thought this was really cool. The episode was titled Sharing the Love. That's what it was. Okay, so you talked about our podcast and what we did and the different, the way we deliver and we talk about stuff. And she got the biggest kick out of that because she had just started listening to your podcast. She heard that episode and like, babe, come here. You got to listen to this shit. I'm like, babe, this guy's name is Jeff and he's really good. Like the following month is when I was like, look, you got to listen to this one. We listened to the Atomic Bomb one on the way home. Right. And she's like, he is real. I go, the voices, the sound effects, everything about this podcast is just a good freaking listen and that's what you do, brother. You get us sucked in, man. And I know it takes time for you to do your episodes, but when they come out, they're really, really good, man. They're really good. I love everything that goes into it. It really does make it for an enjoyable listen. So again, as a podcaster to another podcaster, I mean, not only thanks for having me on, but it's been a fucking blast, man.
You're making me blush, man. You're making me blush.
That's awesome. No, but I appreciate other creators. And, when you find people who do what you do, you have a different level of respect, right? Because it takes passion, it takes time, it takes effort. And it's not something that the average Joe does. So doing a podcast takes a lot of dedication, takes a lot of commitment, and it does. It takes a lot of work, and people don't realize that, hours go into this stuff. And yes, we call it a hobby, but it's a hobby that we like doing because there's repercussions from it when meeting people and having these rewards of spending time with people. And then, I mean, the same way I argue with these people in the restaurants, not being able to pay for food, it happens with the listeners and the people who watch the YouTube. Jay, I want to take you. Let's go eat at Circa. Like, okay, yeah, no, I'm paying. No, fuck you. I didn't come with you for you to pay my meal, right? Like, all right, you want to play a game? You put your credit card in my hat. I put my credit card in the hat. We'll shake it up and we'll have the server pick a credit card. You want to play it? We'll call it dinner roulette. How about that? So it's just stuff like that where you get friends to have a good time. And Jeff, I mean, I'm sure you're starting to see this more and more. The more the content goes out, and the more you're giving people ideas and the more that they appreciate it, they are that much more willing and inclined, because I say it all the time on the podcast. I'm like, guys, you guys ever see me in public? Please come say hi. Don't be a stranger. Let me know you listen. I'd love it. It's rewarding and it's gratifying because it lets you know that, hey, you're doing something for a reason. And people listen, they get some kind of enjoyment out of you, and they do say hi to you. And that's over the top. And hanging out with them, and when they want to spend time with you, makes it all come full circle. And again, doing this, being able to connect with people like you who are in this community and love what we do, man, and have an appreciation for Vegas, that we have content that we create about it, and the podcast and, YouTube as well. It's appreciative, and it shows a lot about how much love and passion you have for what you do, because each and every episode's fucking enjoyable, dude. It's really good.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for the kind words. And thank you for taking time to jump on and have a conversation. I'm glad we were finally able to make our calendars connect and get this going.
Hey, my brother, keep up the good work, and I look forward to chatting with you soon, my friend. Be well.
Once again, be sure to follow Julian and the Vegas Confessions podcast on Twitter and Facebook at Vegas Confessions Pod. And you can search out the Vegas Confessions podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, you can find all these links in the show notes at jeffdoesvegas.com. And that wraps up another episode of Jeff Does Vegas. If you've got feedback on this episode of the show, or any other episode for that matter, or you've got suggestions and ideas for topics you'd like me to cover on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to me via Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Jeff Does Vegas, or drop me an email directly at jeff@jeffdoesvegas.com. In the meantime, thank you so much for checking out the show. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you'll know the moment new episodes are available. And don't forget to visit jeffdoesvegas.com for past episodes and show notes. My name is Jeff, and this has been Jeff Does Vegas, a Walker New Media production.